back, everybody. This is the Johnny-mar, and I am continuing with Final Fantasy III for the PSP. In my last episode, we took out Leviathan here in Lake Dor, and you'll notice that the shadow is actually gone now that we defeated Leviathan, which means you cannot enter his cave anymore. So make sure you do everything you want to before defeating Leviathan, because you can't get back in there once he's dead. So in this episode, we are going to take on another summon monster, and that is the almighty Bahamut. And so to access him, we need to head to North Mountain and then head to the south. And then there is a small mountain range we can go over to access the cave to Bahamut. So before we take on Bahamut, we do want to level up to about level 45. I'm going to do that first, and then I will come back and I will meet you in the entranceway here to Bahamut's lair, and then we will continue onward. Alright, so we are at level 45 now with all of my characters. We are prepared and ready to go to take on Bahamut as well as Bahamut's lair. So this, of course, is a little bit of a rematch. If you remember back to earlier in the game, Bahamut actually tried to eat us, and we had to run away from him. And that is because we were not anywhere near powerful enough to defeat him. But now we are actually strong enough to take him on. So we will pacify this beast, and we will add him to our collection of summon monsters. But before we can actually fight him, we have to get through his particular lair here. So the enemies here aren't any more difficult than what you've been facing so far, especially if you're at about level 45 like my party members are. And so, of note, of course, is the bombs. They can explode. And so you want to try to take them out as quickly as possible and target them first. And if you can't do that, just try to do as much damage to them as possible, because their explosion ability is based on the amount of hit points they have left over when they explode. There is one particular enemy in this area that can actually petrify you, so you can still equip petrification gear, but it's not a super common encounter, so I'm not that concerned about it. But it is something to be aware of. Most of the items in here are going to be battle items, but there are a few other things to look out for as well. The entire dungeon is only 3 screens long, so not super long. So all you have to do is run around a couple of loop-de-loops and you will get to the end. So here's another new enemy to take on. These things look pretty menacing, but again, you can take them out pretty quick, even with just regular basic attacks. Because we're doing about 3,000 damage per attack, and then of course our Dragoon is our OP attacker. And if you think he's OP now, wait till you see him attack Bahamut. We're going to do some special things with Bahamut that he is not going to enjoy. So we get another golem staff there in the chest. We have like 3 of them now, so we're all set with staves. And then another white musk. Woo! And then a Bacchus Cider, which gives you haste in battle. So it's a way you can access haste without having to have a white mage. And then the Chocobo's Wrath. So that's the item that I was mentioning last time that casts flare in battle. So it's something that speedrunners like to use when playing this game, because they can just spam Chocobo's Wrath over and over again using an item duplication glitch in the DS or the PC version of this game, and then they can use it essentially infinitely. They also like to use the turtle shell, because that puts a barrier up on your party. Alright, we got some more Naga enemies here. We did get another bow. I don't really use the Ranger class very much. To me, it's not super useful, but it is something to be aware of, especially in an upcoming area that we're going to be going to in my next episode. If you're playing the NES original, the Famicom version, the Ranger class with the Medusa arrows can actually be pretty useful. But in this version, not as useful. So I'm not going to worry about it. And I'll highlight that again in more depth when we get to that cave. So we are almost to Bahamut here, just a little bit farther to go. We get some more Phoenix Downs, always appreciated, and also some elixirs. The only way you have to restore MP in this game, in battle, or even when in a dungeon. And now we are prepared and ready to go against Bahamut. So let's check out our equipment here. Dragoon is full on assault. And then my other party members are pretty much the way they've been recently. They're ready to go as well. So let's head forward and get a rematch here with the legendary King of the Dragons. I think we are strong enough to defeat you. So you actually exit out of the cave, which is annoying. And then Bahamut is going to swoop down and attack you. And the reason it's annoying is because it invalidates teleport. So essentially, when we beat Bahamut and have to exit out of here, we're going to have to go all the way back through the dungeon. Now, in the DS, there was actually a little bit of a glitch in some versions of the game, where if you cast teleport immediately after beating Bahamut while you were still out here on the world map, it would take you to an inescapable area, which was essentially the nest area that you went into earlier in the game with Desh. Alright, so we're going to jump here, and that is key, because the jump attack is going to do a ton of damage. And we're also going to put Reflect up. Now this, I'm not even sure if this works. I assume so. It does work in the NES version, and of course other Final Fantasies. But usually Bahamut dies before I can find out. But Bahamut does use Mega Flare, and I think it can be reflected in this game. So if you put up Reflect, it'll bounce off your character and go back at him. But again, as I said, I usually kill him so fast that I don't typically see it. And the reason why is because, bam, and he's dead. Now I think that attack actually goes over the damage cap of 10,000 damage. Essentially, Ark gets about 2 times damage on his attacks, and then Bahamut, being a flying enemy, takes double damage from all flying attacks as well as from the spear. So I think he actually takes like quadruple damage, which is why it does so much damage. It knocks Bahamut out in essentially one turn. I think it does around 20 to 30,000 damage in one hit, which is why I think it does go over the damage cap. Alright, so after taking on Bahamut, we are back off the floating continent. That's all we needed to do there. And now we're going to head to the next town, which is the town of the Dark Knights. So we actually got a katana at the end of Bahamut's cave, the Kotetsu, and that is a little bit of a precursor to where we're going to head next, which is the Village of Dark Knights. So to find it, just head up to Saronia and then head a little bit to the west. There'll be a little bit of a passage here through the mountains, and then some mini mountains here to go over with the Invincible. And this will take you to the next town. But before we head in there, let's talk to Mognet, because we do have a new letter to read from the 4 old men. And they're going to tell us about a huge shadow they saw. Oh my goodness, well maybe we should search that out. Seems topical, doesn't it? Although we've already took on the huge shadow and defeated it, but thanks for the info. We appreciate it. So now we're going to head down to the town, which is called Falgabard. Now, Dark Knights in this game are actually a little bit different than the original version. So in this version, they are a pure attacking class, more in line with later Final Fantasy games. So essentially, they have a darkness attack, which is called Soul Eater, that allows you to attack all enemies, and all it does is essentially take a little bit of your hit points to use it. So similar to Cecil's attack in Final Fantasy IV. Now, they also use katanas. They can use normal swords as well, but katanas are special items that can actually attack and defeat splitting enemies much easier. So they prevent splitting enemies from splitting, essentially. And they tend to be a little bit stronger than the swords we have at this time. So we are going to be converting one of our party members over into a Dark Knight to take on the next dungeon areas. I like how this person here is like, well, only Dark Blades can be wielded by Dark Knights, and you have to spend essentially a lifetime learning to master the darkness. And we're going to be like, yeah, we're just going to turn someone into a Dark Knight and use them. No mastery required. Now this magic shop sells level 3 magic, which is interesting. In the original, in the Famicom version, Dark Knights were actually called Mystic Knights, and they could actually use up to level 3 white magic. So they were a little bit more similar to Paladins in that respect. We do have some demon equipment here, but we don't need it because we're only going to have one Dark Knight in our party. If you are going to use multiples of the Dark Knight, then you might want to pick up some additional demon equipment. But there is some in the upcoming areas that we can grab that'll allow us to outfit our party members. Now you can buy the Yoichi bow here, and that is one of the strongest bows in the game. So if you are using an archer character like the Ranger, then the Yoichi bow is actually very powerful, and you might want to grab some arrows as well. So there are two particular kind of hidden areas, so to speak, in this town that we want to access. One of them's fairly obvious, the other one is a little bit trickier. But before we do that, we do want to talk to the characters walking around first. So we have the Mace Immune. We will be getting that later. It is actually not available until one of the final dungeon areas. I think it is in Eureka. And then they mention ninjas, which are kind of an upgraded Dark Knight class that can actually throw weapons as well. Yes, we will get them very soon. And then this cave has splitting enemies. So you're warned, be careful going in there, unless you have someone with a Dark Blade. Because they will multiply, they will divide and attack you. Which, I mean, yeah, they do that, but it's not that dangerous. The biggest trade-off of that is that most of the splitting enemies, because I think the game assumes you're going to have to fight a lot of them, have very low experience. Now we can head behind the waterfall here, and there is a boss encounter, kind of a mini-boss at the back. Before we head and take him on, we're going to head down through the water to grab some hidden items. So splitting enemies are not useful for level grinding, because essentially if you don't let them split, you're not going to get a lot of experience from them. So on this island there are 4 hidden items. So we're going to look for the sparklies. We get a blessed hammer. So if you're using a Viking class, that is useful. We get a demon shield. I mean, it can be useful if you're using shields. I'm not really using them that often, just in select battles. And then the demon mail. So that's nice. So what we're going to do then is we're going to change Luneth from a wizard into a Dark Knight. Now fortunately the transition period isn't very long, it's only 4 battles, so he'll be up to speed pretty quickly. And then we'll equip him. So right now we have normal swords and then we have 1 katana. So we're going to throw the katana on him, and then we're also going to throw the ancient sword on him. And then for now, we don't really have great equipment for him. We just have the 1 demon mail, which is one of the best armors that he can actually wear, especially at this point. And he can equip the diamond gloves. So we'll throw those on him too, just to up his defense. So again, the trade-off with the Dark Knight is that he can attack essentially all enemies that you might face in a random encounter or boss encounter by using his Soul Eater ability, but he is going to take a little bit of hit point damage. So I guess it depends on how dangerous you want to live. It can be useful at taking out groups of enemies though, especially if they're weak to dark attacks. So the back of this cave is an old man, and he has a blade, and he wants to know if we're worthy of wielding it, so he's going to attack us. So we're going to take on the Shinobi. This thing is not that difficult. I think it only has around 10,000 hit points, and we're going to do a lot of damage to it very quickly. Levels are not required. You don't have to be at level 45 to take this guy on. I think you're kind of expected to come here sooner, like right after the time you get the Invincible. So the scaling of the enemies in this area is a little bit lower. But because I got the Summon Beast first, my party members are quite a bit stronger than maybe what the game expects. So yeah, he only attacks one time even. So pretty powerful attack, doing about 800 damage, but it essentially is in vain. We're gonna kill him essentially in one round once the jump lands. And then we'll get one of the more powerful katana blades from him. Boom! And dead. Thanks for coming. See you next time. No, we're not ending the episode. We have a little bit longer to go. Alright, so he is done for. So give us our prize, old man. Yes, we get a blade. Which blade is it? The Mace Immune? Well, I already spoiled that, right? It's not. I guess, well, I don't know how to pronounce this. It's the Kiku Ichimanji? Is that how it's pronounced? Something like that. Sorry for butchering it. But again, that is one of the stronger katanas in the game. So we're going to throw that on our Dark Knight. And we actually get a second copy of it in the next dungeon area. Not the other cave in this town, but the next major dungeon we're going to go to, which is actually one of the longer dungeons in the game. So even though we have a Dark Knight now, this guy doesn't change his dialogue. But we are well prepared to take on the encounters in here. So this area is actually going to prep you well for the next area, which is called the Cave of Shadows or the Cave of Darkness. And kind of what's infamous about that area is that it has a lot of these secret path areas that go through the walls. So you're going to have to go through the walls and find these secret path areas in order to progress. So both of these enemies are splitting enemies. So again, remember, with splitting enemies, you want to use physical attacks that are either going to kill them, that are Dark Knight abilities, or magic attacks. Otherwise, if you hit them with a physical attack that is not a katana, or not strong enough to kill them, it will actually cause them to divide. So we'll head up here and grab a chest, and then the last area here is through the wall. Get another demon mail, sweet. And then we'll grab the last few chests. And in my next episode, we will head to the next plot-related dungeon area, the Cave of Darkness. So as always, viewers, thanks for the continued support. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you all next time. So long. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please press like and leave a comment below. Please also subscribe to my channel and press the notification bell. See you next time.